Well, let's get more reaction for you on the situation around Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula. Some groups applauding the actions of the NPA and the criminal justice system through what's happened after she was arrested and released on 50,000 rand bail today. As you know, the former National Assembly Speaker is accused of receiving 2.3 million rand in corrupt payments from a defence contractor. Tebogo Khaas is the founder of the organisation Public Interest SA. Tebogo, good afternoon to you. Firstly, from what I can see, you're applauding the way the NPA has managed this situation. How do you believe they've coped with it?
I'm not so sure if I'm really applauding the NPA. I'm applauding the judiciary. I'm applauding Judge Potter for reading the Right Act and just making it clear, unequivocally clear to Ms. Mapisa-Nqakula that she cannot find herself to be above the law. She must just be treated like any other person, and she cannot just want to change how the criminal justice operates just because it's a prominent individual as the NPA has. The NPA, I'm still not sure how to react to the NPA, but it is disappointing that they extended such courtesy to an individual when we know that the Constitution doesn't make provision for who or what office you occupy. So we must all be treated the same. So, and we know that if it was you and I, Stephen, the NPA or the SAPS wouldn't have hesitated to pounce on us, irrespective of whether it's convenient for our lawyers or not. So it is disappointing. The optics are not very good, and it just corrodes the public trust in how the criminal justice system works, except, of course, Judge Potter has acquitted herself very well. She carried the case very well. So the NPA has still got a lot to answer for, because we've seen it happen oftentimes with high-profile individuals that the kind of cases that is extended to them is not extended to an ordinary citizen. So we are disappointed with the NPA. But we will keep an open eye, and hopefully, since the matter has now been enrolled, we hope that they do have a case, she does have a case to answer, and they've done the investigations properly. Because individuals such as the former speaker are well-resourced. They will pick on any line that they can pick on to either use the Stalingrad method or to try and evade accountability. So this actually will put the spotlight much more so pronounced on the NPA.
Do you think that there'll ever be a day when politicians are treated like the rest of us? I mean, it's one of the defining questions in our society, in a way. The Constitution says that we are all equal before the law, and yet I think many citizens feel that we're not.
Yeah, like they say in Animal Farm, animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. Certainly, we don't say people should be dragged along, screaming and kicking to court to present themselves to charges and give bail application. But the kind of courteousness, I've seen individuals being shackled, like Patricia Mashele, shackled and presented in court for matters that subsequently get thrown out because it was just vexation, not even vexation, it was just malicious prosecution at the behest of the police. And you ask yourself, we don't expect that the Speaker would be shackled, or the Chief Justice will be shackled, or the President will be shackled in the event that they find themselves in the crosshairs of the criminal justice system. But certainly treat people equally. That's what the Constitution envisions, and that is make sure that people get to understand that you cannot dictate how the prosecution should do their work, much as the prosecution cannot dictate how Parliament must do its work. So if the shoe was on the other foot, Mapisa would have told Advocate Bartoyi not to interfere with how they run parliamentary sessions. And if the Speaker or the NPA ought to have presented themselves to Parliament, they wouldn't have dictated to Parliament how they must treat them. So, what is good for the gander must be good for the goose as well.
The situation, we look at this case and the sort of headlines are, corruption, National Assembly Speaker released on bail. But this all happened, and she, according to the NPA, they say, she received money from a defence contractor while she was the defence minister. In other words, this is really about the South African National Defence Force. Now, Tebogo, I don't need to remind you, we have soldiers in the DRC right now. We were speaking to a military spokesperson, an SANDF spokesperson on Newsfeed here yesterday, and he wouldn't really, in the end, I suppose, confirm or deny whether there were only 6 toilets for 600 people. I think it's tempting to think this is a sort of victimless crime. Do you think that the alleged actions of Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula had real consequences in the real world for our military?
No, certainly they're dire. In fact, dire as in literally so, especially if you're a soldier in the front lines in the DRC, because if you don't have ammunition or the right equipment to be able to execute your mandate, we'll have body bags coming back. And that is assured. The rebels won't want to give you a buy because your leadership has not provided with the requisite tools. And certainly it is not a victimless crime in the sense that if you look even the military itself, there's a sort of a military health services. If you look at the dire state of the infrastructure, take for example one military hospital. It used to be a premier military hospital in the continent, where you'd even find ambassadors sending, or countries sending their ambassadors at the military hospital for treatment and other medically related interventions. It has lost its honor. You need only go back to when Mandela died or allegedly died on his route in an military hospital ambulance. You ask yourself, why would they transport a statesman in a vehicle that was not roadworthy or that would likely have problems without even a backup? But closer inspection of the facilities themselves, their lack of resources, lack of medications in some instances, programs or procedures sometimes have to be abandoned or even outsourced to private companies, whether it's scanning or MSRC or these medical scanners. They sometimes get to be outsourced to private sector institutions. You ask yourself, why is it the case? It is because the resources are not being properly expended. The resources are not properly allocated where they ought to be. The hospital, if you take military again, they are understaffed. You find that they sometimes they run out of medication in their dispensary, or if they lack personnel, people will wait 9 hours just to get a script, a repeat script, processed. You ask yourself, is it the kind of leadership? It talks about the kind of leadership. But as the saying goes in Setswana and Sesotho, I know that you don't understand what I'm just about to say. In other words, people mimic what their superiors do. So you find that people are not even in their stations when they ought to be. Mm-hmm. Never mind the understaffing. You find that people don't report because they know that they can get away with the kind of things. So this is said it is not a victim because the patients, ultimately the patients who are the customers of the military health services are the ones who suffer. The people who work there, they work in an environment that is quite not conducive for working in. Sometimes you find blood splatter all over. You find beds that are not working, and never mind medication not being provided on time. I can go on and on and on. Where you find projects have been abandoned because they've been given to companies which didn't deliver, and there's still no consequence management. Hundreds of millions being used. So we can go on and on and on. But if indeed these allegations against former Defense Minister Mapisa-Nqakula are true, it just proves or shows the kind of impact such conduct has on the ground in terms of service delivery, even within the military service itself. So the president, he must actually take shame, because he must be ashamed, because he's the commander-in-chief. Not once have you heard that the president has done, for example, an inspection whether the soldiers on the front line are okay, or whether the staffs in the dental surgeries are okay with what's going on, or the facilities that the taxpayers are spending so much money, whether we're getting money for value for the money that is invested by taxpayers.
I mean, you talk about how important leadership is and what happens if you don't have proper leadership, and for the military that's really important. And I suppose it must go that if you have a defence minister, if you have generals that people don't respect, well then it does trickle down. And you look at the state of our military at the moment, which is underfunded. The fact that it never gets enough money is one of the major problems. But I do worry if there's been a waste of resources as well.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, Stephen, because forget about the underfunding. The fact of the matter is that there's no proper management or utilization of the funds that are available. There's no efficiencies in the system. That is why you find they run out supplies. You know that so many patients will be coming back for repeat scripts on a particular medication. Why don't you make sure that you provide for it, make sure that it's always available? No. But because there are other priorities, the money has been diverted to other things that are not essential insofar as the duty to care for your patients, the duty to care for the employees within the system. And it is all about allocation of it. It is all about leadership. And we don't have that. Because why? People are scared. Some of the generals, and there are well-meaning people within the system, don't get me wrong, not everybody is bad. But you'd find that some people are scared to speak out, because once you speak out, especially publicly, you might very well find yourself in hot water. And maybe it might also even impede your career progression. In other words, you might be overlooked for promotion in future. So you'd find that it encourages that kind of practice, that kind of conduct where there's fear, and then it just corruption festers, and then you cover each other. And it is very, very sad when you've got people such as the wife of an army general being implicated in such horrendous corruption itself. So you ask yourself, the very general who commands the people in DRC is responsible for making sure that those people don't have the requisite tools, ammunition, and supplies to ensure that they can execute on the mandate, which is a shameful, which still points back to who? The commander-in-chief.
Tebogo, Khaas, thanks very much indeed. Founder of Public Interest SA. Well, lots of directions that the conversations that come from Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula come from.